Hey, MegaJeff back again, and I am going to do a couple videos in a row or over the next week or so dealing with some obscurities. I've mentioned on my channel many times that I will buy obscure metal bands based on look, based on little to no knowledge. It's going back to the whole blind buy things and things that I look at for just the obscure bands. And there are some bands I'm like, yeah, I want to check that out. I dig that. I'm not just into the 5-star mainstream bands. I like checking out the obscure bands that never made it very far. And so I occasionally see records at my local store that are like this. I tend to scoop them up. Depends on the price, depends on the timing, depends on what I want. So this past weekend, went to my local store. I had had a little extra cash because of a lot of band gigs recently, and so I had a little extra cash that I thought, I'm gonna go in there and definitely buy something. A lot of times I look for cheap stuff. I think I'm gonna buy something, and so of value. And so I went in there, and there's been one album that's been there for many months. I'll show that in another video. There was an album months ago that I saw in there that no clue, but looked very interesting. And I'm like, at that point I didn't make a move. And then the next time I went, it was gone. Or so I thought. So I'm in there this time and I'm looking. And I'm finding a lot of stuff actually that I want to get that's in a reasonable price. There was a couple things that I wanted that were a little more expensive, so I didn't move on those. But this album, I'm flipping through where it normally was. Wasn't there? I'm flipping through other sections. I had some extra time, and I'm flipping, and boom, there it is. This is an album that I saw months ago. Have no clue what it's about. It looked interesting. It looked quirky. And there it was. And it was not too expensive. It was not expensive at all. And so I thought, I'm going to go ahead and take a chance. I could find little to no information about the band. On Discogs, the album is listed. No information. The band name is listed. No information. The album came out in like 83. And it turns out the one that they had there is a 2011 reissue. No information about the band at all. The band is called The Law. You ever heard of them? Has anybody out there ever heard of them? The Law. None Escape. None Escape. The Law. Check those guys out. Power trio. All leathered up. Check it out. Anyway, I'm like, okay. I found like one YouTube video that had a song. Maybe I found two that had clips. And I thought, it doesn't sound horrible. So I'm going to check it out. And let's see. There's another picture over there. So, it's a black vinyl. Not a big deal here. But this is exactly how the 1983 one looked. Pretty much looked just like this. Except in this case, there's this big write-up. So finally, I see a detailed description of who the band is. I didn't see this till I got home, and I added this to Discogs because there was no information about the band on here. The band started by two of the guys, and they were from, I guess, in Los Angeles. They were part of a religious commune called Source, or the Source family. The Source family. It was apparently a fairly common commune, religious commune back in the 70s, and these two guys belonged to it. And they eventually, the group, the religious organization, moved to Hawaii. So actually, you see the pictures here. This is a Hawaiian volcano they're on there. It moved to Hawaii. Anyway, and then in like 1977, it changed to a different place in Hawaii. The band settled down in a different area. And then they started working on putting this band together. And by the late 70s, The Law was born. They got a drummer. Long story short, they got a drummer. They did some stuff. I guess they left that particular group. They moved back to Los Angeles to make it in the business. They started playing the Strip. They started getting some. They recorded their own album. Made 4,000 copies, and there are some copies on Discogs available, but they are expensive for the original release. And in general, they started making a name for themselves, and then they started playing at the typical places in the area, and they were getting ready to get a record contract. And so turns out they're in rotation at some of the clubs there, and they found out that they were up against the competition of this new up-and-coming band called Motley Crue. And 2 weeks later, the band broke up. So I don't know exactly that they had the record label. 3 weeks later, they had the record label in the works, and it just says that they basically discovered, that they were up against this up-and-coming band called Motley Crue, and so 3 weeks later, they broke up. Anyway, it tells a little bit about the history of where the guys are now, and some of them are still involved in music. According to this, the guitar player and this is in 2011, he is involved in the promotion of his son's Christian band called Pepper. Pepper still looks like they played throughout the 2000s, in 2011, 12, 15, up to 20. I'm not sure if they're still together, but they looked like they were kind of a reggae rockish band. And anyway, so as of 2011, when this was repressed, he was involved in that, but, not doing music. Anyway, has anybody heard of this band? Kind of quirky looking. I mean, the guy's just, it screams, old school, hard rock and metal. And it's not bad. It's decent production for the time frame. It's just gritty, hard rocking music at the time. So yeah, I was not disappointed. I mean, it is obscure. It is up and coming. It's not like they're a blaze of originality, but we are talking like, what does I say, 1983, I believe. So, it was just fun to explore this. But again, has anybody else ever heard of that? I don't know. Back in the day, I'd never heard of them. They just did the one and done, and I guess it was a self-released album, so I probably would have never seen it on the East Coast where I was, since they were just a West Coast band. And especially since it seems like a lot of this was taking place in Hawaii. So, anyway, I went ahead and picked it up, like I say, brought it home, took a listen to it. It's not horrible. It looks like most all the songs are written by the guitar player, who goes on this by Troy Duke, but in real life his name is it tells you his name here is Roy Williams. So I don't know, I don't think it has a religious bent to it, but it's just straight up hard rocking music from a quirky, time frame. So anyway, just thought I'd share. Anybody heard of such things? Would you have bought something quirky like this? I mean, that's what I got. And I actually came out of there 3 such albums. And I will show the other ones in another video just to keep this short. Anyway, that's it for this one. Thanks a lot for watching. Tell me if you know anything about this band. Have you ever heard of them? If you ever see their 1983 release out in the wild, it'd be kind of neat to have an original copy just for fun of it. That's it for this one. Rock on and rock hard.